We bought the ring at the Clackamas County Fair for $5 and a laugh. It was one of those booths where everything sparkled under bad fluorescent light, and the guy behind the glass kept saying genuine with a wink, like the word meant kind of in his language. The band was thin as a soda can tab, set with a stone that looked suspiciously like it had once been part of a prom bracelet. I said it was ridiculous. She said that was the point. "Put it on me," she said, holding out her hand with this mock solemn face that made the carny on the other side of the counter grin. "In front of the cows?" I asked. We were standing near the livestock barns. It smelled like hay and sugar and somebody's expensive cologne that didn't know what it had signed up for. "In front of the cows," she said. "Let's give them a story." I slid the ring onto her finger. It was a half size too big and somehow still looked perfect. We took a picture on my phone with the Ferris wheel blurry in the back, and she posted it with a caption about fair magic and not settling for anything that didn't make you laugh first. People who didn't know us thought it was a proposal. Our friends knew better. We were 23 and playing house in a one-bedroom in Selwood with thrift store furniture and a chore chart that we obeyed about as well as our houseplants obeyed the sun. She kept the ring. She wore it on a chain sometimes, on days when she was feeling kitschy or when it matched a vintage dress she'd found in a shop on Hawthorne. Other times, it lived in a little dish by the sink, nestled among bobby pins and a rubber band she swore had the perfect tension. We joked that one day we'd trade it for a real one, the kind you insure, the kind you lean over and whisper about to strangers in bright jewelry stores with carpets thick enough to erase your doubts. We never got around to trading. Life was good enough without paperwork. I'm a high school civics teacher, the kind who still writes essential questions on the board in real chalk and keeps a stack of pocket constitutions for the kids who forget the assignment is to read them, not prop up an uneven desk. She's a project coordinator at a design firm downtown that thinks open offices cure anxiety and a snack wall is a business strategy. We had a dog named Spinner who could catch anything you threw if it was edible and had a plaid bandana collection that shamed us both. We had a friend group that knew how to borrow each other's casseroles and pickup trucks without keeping score. We had a ritual of walking to the river on Sundays to watch the bridges be more patient than we felt. You can draw a line from that booth at the fair to everything that came after if you want to be poetic. The ring wasn't a promise. It was an agreement to laugh about what was missing. We weren't cheap. We were practical with jokes. That kind of joke can turn on you if you stop noticing it. It started with a banner on her phone. That's not special, I know. But it was one of those everyday betrayals of a digital rectangle that thinks your eyes belong to it. We were in the kitchen on a Tuesday night pretending to meal prep like couples with their lives together. I was chopping peppers. She was reading a recipe off her phone and telling me for the 10th time that we should learn to confit something because TikTok said we could. Her lock screen lit. A message slid into the top like a cat under a door. Still on for after the planning session? Lyric Lobby, 7005th. The name on the message was a first name I knew from her office, one of the senior designers who wears black t-shirts that cost more than my suit. It was not the name of a person who had ever texted her before, at least not that I had seen when our phones lay around like dogs who trust their home. I am not proud of the way my heart did arithmetic in that moment. Love makes you a conspiracy theorist and an optimist in the same breath. I told myself planning session could mean anything. The firm ran them whenever clients wanted to feel important after 5. Lyric could be a bar. The lobby could be anywhere. The only thing that lodged under my ribs was 7050, the time you pick when you're pretending a thing starts later than it does. Her thumb slid and the banner vanished. She didn't look at me. I didn't look at her. We ate roasted chicken bowls and watched a documentary about street cats in Istanbul, and she leaned her head on my shoulder and made soft noises when the tiny kittens did tiny kitten things. It was a good night with a bad sentence slowly writing itself in the corner. Thursday, she said she'd be late because of a strategy sprint debrief. I said, try saying it 5 times fast, like it was a joke that could fix anything. She smiled and took Spinner out and then left with her tote and that jacket I love on her, the one that makes her look like she can talk a city into good behavior. I told myself to grade papers, which is something that always needs doing. I told myself to be the person who trusts until he has proof not to. At 7006, a calendar notification popped on my laptop because we share calendars like civilized people who have to plan dog walks and dentist appointments and when the one car is going to be where. It said, travel time to Lyric Hotel, 14 men. The location was a little map pin on SW11th and Alder. The note under it, pulled in from her phone because she had location services on the detail for this event, said, "Meet after planning." I stared at the words for longer than any human word deserves to be stared at. I moved my cursor to the little button that says, "Turn off shared notifications," and then I moved it away because pretending not to know is not the same as not knowing. Lyric isn't a bar. It's a hotel with a lobby so well designed it makes you behave in a lower voice. I'd been there once for a union meeting we weren't supposed to call a union meeting. It looks like the idea of a lobby in a movie about lobbies, mid-century chairs that make you sit up and talk like you're someone important, a long bar with bottles that seem to glow from within, ferns hanging in macrame like whoever designed it, loved the 70s but had a better shampoo. I told myself to wait. I told myself to be the guy from Sunday Walks, not the guy from Rumor Threads. But waiting isn't patience if all you're doing is building an alibi for someone else. At 712, I put Spinner's dinner in his bowl and wrote on the whiteboard where we leave each other everything that matters. Took him for a second walk. Back by 9. I grabbed my jacket and keys and the $5 ring from the dish by the sink because some symbols are good to have in your pocket even if you never take them out. My hands knew what they were doing before my heart did. I parked on a side street because I didn't want to announce myself to a valet. The air had that damp Portland cold that sneaks under your clothes and sets up camp between your shoulder blades. I walked around the corner and into the Lyric and felt my body do that thing where it arrives a second before your brain. The lobby smelled faintly like orange peels and new paper. Someone had thought about that, which made me want to be mad at interior designers as a species, and also grateful for people who give rooms ways to feel like hope. I sat in a chair near a large plant I couldn't name and pretended to be the kind of person who waits in lobbies all the time. I ordered a club soda because club soda reads as, "I have somewhere to be," in a way beer doesn't. I texted Gabe that I was at the Lyric because my therapist would tell me to have a grounding object, and sometimes mine is a friend who says, "Tell me 3 blue things in your eye line right now," and then cracks a joke about how one of the blue things is probably my mood. Blue things? The barback shirt? The spine of a book on a side table, designing for people, the neon stripe in a stranger's sneaker. At 724, she walked in wearing the jacket and a look I wanted to believe was tired, not careful. The senior designer I recognized from office picnics was already at a low table, tapping his phone like it was a nervous tick, not a choice. He stood and half-hugged her, that awkward shape people make when they want to touch but want to keep plausible deniability in their back pocket. They sat. A server appeared with practiced cheer. They didn't need menus. That told me they'd been here before. I didn't overhear their words. I didn't try. I watched the shape of their conversation the way you watch someone in a foreign film before the subtitles kick in. Hands that knew each other's orbit, a lean forward that remembered its mark, a smile that tried to stay on one side of the mouth and then failed. It wasn't a love story. It was 2 people auditioning for one. I could have walked over then. I could have put the $5 ring on the table like a prop from Act 1 that refuses to leave the stage. I didn't. I stayed in my chair and let the club soda go flat and remembered that my dad once told me the second worst time to make a big decision is when you're cold. The worst is when you're drunk. I was neither. I was something worse. Clear. They got up together at 8007. He touched her elbow lightly, and that we're in public way, they walked toward the elevators. She looked at her phone. Something in me went very quiet. I stood, and my chair made the tiniest scrape, and the lobby swallowed it. I didn't follow them. I walked to the front desk. "Hi," I said, to the woman with a name tag that said J.O., because everyone in a lobby is someone, and everyone wearing a name tag is performing 2 jobs. Is there a policy on visitors in the bar wandering up to rooms? Do you need a key for the elevator? "Keycard access after 8, she said, professional pleasant, eyes already moving to where the next guest might need their life to make sense. "Are you meeting someone?" "I think someone I love is about to make a mistake," I said before my mouth could come up with a lie, and Joe's face did a thing I didn't expect. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She placed a palm on the counter like it was a steadying post and spoke as if she were telling me the weather in a tone designed for a storm. "Do you need me to call them down?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm not here to catch anything. I'm here to stop something from becoming a story I have to tell myself in past tense." She nodded once like she had been handed a script she didn't hate. "Lobby is open until midnight," she said. "Bar's going to get loud in about 20. If you want to wait somewhere that doesn't smell like citrus, there's a smaller sitting room to the right." She pointed to a nook with a couch and a lamp and a table with a stack of design magazines too thick to read. "I'll send a glass of water." "Thank you," I said, like she'd offered me a raft. I sat in the little room and counted my breaths and the dots in the lampshade. At 8,039, my phone buzzed. She texted, "Meeting ran long. I'm heading to Priya's for a quick debrief, then home. Don't wait up if you're sleepy. Love you." I looked at the text long enough for the letters to blur, and then I put the phone face down. I didn't respond because I didn't trust anything I could type to be a sentence that wouldn't shatter. Instead, I took the ring out of my pocket. It looked tiny in my palm. The stone caught the lobby light like it had finally found the thing it was made for. I don't know what face I made, but Joe appeared in the doorway and glanced at the ring and then at me and said, "Do you want me to sit with you for a minute?" It startled me. I shook my head no, because I'm the kind of person who says no to help because he thinks he should be the kind of person who doesn't need it. Then I said, "Actually, if you can tell me whether those elevators ding in the lobby when they stop down here." "They do," she said. "Okay," I said, "then I'll know." At 85-1, I heard the stainless steel chime and the doors slide open. I stood because my body did the math. She stepped out alone. She moved like someone trying to make time obey. Her eyes swept the lobby, not frantic, but almost like she knew her life had changed its posture. When she saw me, her shoulders did a tiny drop and then reset like someone had told her, smiling burns calories. "You're here," she said. "People always say obvious things when they're trying to buy time." "I am," I said. My voice surprised me by not shaking. "Can we talk somewhere we can sit?" "This is dramatic," she said, which is what people say when they're uncomfortable, that you did not choose to be a prop. "I'm trying very hard not to be," I said. "That's why I'm asking for a chair." She looked at the bar like it might offer a strategy, and then at the sitting room. "Fine," she said, not unkindly. Just tired of the person she had to be to get through this doorway, we went into the little room and sat on opposite ends of the couch like we'd been coached by someone with a degree. "I had a meeting," she said, fast, a card she placed on the table before I could show mine. "You had a planning session," I said, not correcting, just setting the room's time, "and a meeting after." "We were talking about a client," she said. "It's not against the law to talk about a client in a hotel. The lobby is public." "A lot of things aren't against the law," I said softly. "I'm not here to prosecute you." "You came to a hotel to what exactly?" "To choose a sentence I can live with," I said. She crossed her arms, but her hands were shaking, and I wanted to reach across the universe and hold them, and also I didn't. "You could have just asked me at home," she said. "I've been asking you at home," I said, "just not out loud." Her mouth tightened. She was very beautiful in the way people are when they're trying not to be seen all the way. "I'm not going to yell," I said. "I'm not going to make a scene, but I am going to be specific." "Okay," she said, that defensive little syllable people throw like a plate. A message popped up. "Still on for after the planning session? Lyric Lobby, 7:15. Your calendar offered to take you here with travel time. I watched you meet him in the lobby. I watched you go to the elevator. I asked the front desk if the elevators require a key after 8. They do." "You watched me?" she said, more hurt than angry. "That's gross." "I watched a lobby in the city I live in," I said, "because sometimes simple is all you have. I'm not here to trap you. I'm here to ask you to tell me the version of this that doesn't ask me to be stupid." She looked past me to a spot on the wall where a framed photograph of a eucalyptus branch did nothing to help. Then she looked back. "I needed to feel like I was good at something that wasn't you," she said. "It came out too fast and too honest and hit both of us like the air had been shoved out of the room." "Okay," I said, "because that word can also mean I hear the world ending and I'm not going to throw a chair." "We had drinks," she said too quickly. "We talked about the campaign and other things. He asked me to go up. I said no. I said I had a boyfriend and I loved him. I said no." "Thank you," I said, and meant it, and also hated that it mattered. "I was coming down to go home," she added, like it might balance the ledger. "I know," I said, because I had sat here and watched the doors and counted time like it was on our side. She saw the ring in my hand then, and something in her face softened and hardened at the same time. "Oh," she said, a syllable that remembered cows and lights and our willingness to laugh at what we didn't have yet. "I brought it because it felt honest," I said. "We bought a joke we thought we'd replace when we figured it out. We didn't. The joke got heavy." She reached out like she wanted to touch it and stopped like it was hot. "I never wanted to make you feel cheap," she said, and it might have been the realest sentence of the night. Cheap isn't the word, I said. Discounted might be. She looked at me the way people look when they think they just realized how to read a clock. What do you want to do? She asked. I took a breath so slow I could hear the orange smell moving in and out. I want to finish this conversation without either of us performing, I said. Then I want to go home and pack a bag and sleep somewhere else for a while. She opened her mouth and closed it and nodded, tiny and painful. Okay, she said. Ask what you need to ask. I held the ring between my fingers and kept my voice steady. How long has this been a thing that lives in your head? I asked. Not up here in this building, in general. She stared at the eucalyptus photograph like it had answers and then back at me. A month, she said. Maybe 2. Not. She stopped. She didn't say the thing you say to make it sound smaller. It's been a month of me wanting to feel like an option again. That is not a sentence I'm proud of. I nodded. Thank you for saying it, I said. Outside, the bar laughed. The elevator chimed for someone else. The city went on refusing to care in a way that felt like kindness. Okay, I said finally, then here's what we do. And that was where we were when the second half of this story started, in a sitting room off a lobby that smelled like citrus and new beginnings, with a $5 ring between 2 people who had grown out of one joke and were about to choose different ones. We sat there with the $5 ring between us like a tiny planet, and I told her what I could live with. No audience, no HR theater. We walk out, go home, be specific. I pack a bag, I sleep elsewhere for a week. Tomorrow, we do a legal pad and divide the boring things first so the hard things don't run the meeting. I won't pretend I didn't see what I saw. She won't ask me to call it nothing because nothing doesn't send texts or ride elevators. Okay, she said, and I believed her in the way you believe, a weather report once you've already seen the clouds. We crossed the lobby. I thanked the woman at the desk for the water. She nodded like a conductor ending a piece without applause. Outside the Lyric, the rain had softened to that Portland mist that thinks it's doing you a favor. We walked 4 blocks with space between us that used to be air. At home, Spinner thumped his tail like a metronome trying to forgive the song. She sat on the bed, hands clasped. I pulled the suitcase from the closet, folded t-shirts that still smelled like our detergent, slid my parents' photo into the side pocket like a seatbelt for the person I might become in the next 7 days. I left the ring in the dish by the sink. No theatrics. Symbols don't need to be drowned to be true. Gabe opened his door like he'd been leaning on it. He had clean sheets on the futon and the right kind of joke, the kind that misses on purpose so I could say I wasn't ready to laugh. I slept badly, then like a rock, then badly again. Morning made the choice for me. The legal pad worked the way boring things work. We listed plants, rug, bookshelf, cast iron, deposit, utilities, deadlines. She didn't say his name, I didn't ask for it. We initialed lines as if adulthood were a scavenger hunt and the prize was fewer reasons to text later. Twists, don't wait for your calendar. That night my phone buzzed with an unknown number. She's safe. Don't punish her, it's on me. It read like a threat dressed as chivalry. I stared at the sentence and felt 2 versions of myself argue, the one who wanted to screenshot and staple it to a complaint, and the one who had promised not to outsource our ending to a process that eats people for content. I wrote back one line, I'm not punishing anyone, I'm leaving. No reply. The bubble stayed empty like a person who thought the last word would save him. In the morning, an email slid into my inbox from a name I didn't expect to see outside a lobby. Hi, this is Joe from the Lyric. You left a thank you note with your email on it. If you want me to document the time you asked about elevator access, our system purges logs after 7 days. I can't share guest info, but I can put a note on file confirming keycard policy if you need it for anything. Either way, I hope you get the sentence you can live with. I hadn't left a note. Maybe she decided people deserve exit ramps. I read it twice and clicked reply, then didn't. I wasn't going to turn a person's kindness into a lever. Still, it shook me in that way. A small integrity shakes you. I closed the laptop and taught first period about due process like it had nothing to do with my kitchen. At lunch, Jess texted me like she was tapping a glass with a fork. You don't owe me a reply. It's messy over there. I'll keep invitations gentle. I stared at messy and felt relief that someone else was using the right word. After school, Spinner pulled me to the park and discovered, because dogs do, an object under a bench that did not belong to the ground. He brought it to me with the smug joy of a pirate, a brass luggage tag, oval, edge-nicked, stamped with initials I recognized from office picnic name tags. I turned it over. The back had the Lyrics logo etched lightly, like a place that expects you to misplace your life and wants to pretend it can give it back. I didn't keep it. I walked it to the design firm's lobby because there are small ways to stop stories from becoming bigger. The receptionist looked exhausted in a way that says, HR is busy. She took the tag carefully, like evidence is contagious. When I turned to leave, a woman with an engagement ring that tried too hard walked in with a manila folder clutched so tight the edges curled. We made eye contact for 1 second longer than strangers do. Later, Jess would tell me the senior designer had a fiancé, an on-again, off-again situation older than their fancy coffee machine. I didn't connect the dots then. You never do until someone circles them with a red pen and calls it fate. The firm reached out 2 days later anyway. An email from an HR address with no names asked if I could provide a general statement about any observations relevant to a potential boundaries training refresh. They're good at writing sentences with a spine made of jello. I replied, I won't be participating. Please remove my contact info from this matter. Thank you. Hitting send felt like closing a window in a noisy room. A different message arrived that night. Hi, we don't know each other. I'm Aaron. Could we talk for 5 minutes? It's not about you, but it's near you. If the ring in the dish had been a siren, this was the lighthouse. I hesitated, then called. Her voice sounded like a person who's tried to practice calm and gotten competent at it. I don't need details, she said. I need directions. Did you see them leave together? No, I said. I saw an elevator and a lobby and the lies people tell themselves to make it to morning. She let out a breath that had been holding back a month. Okay, she said. Thank you. That's better and worse than I wanted. Whatever you do with your life after this, I added, because the sentence had been burning a hole in my chest. Don't use me to make your decision brave. Use yourself. She laughed softly, no joy in it, just recognition. I was hoping you'd say, keycard logs expire and give me a deadline, but that was better. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not because I'm supposed to apologize to the man my fiance hurt. I'm sorry because people keep handing you pieces of their mess and asking you to paste them together. Seatbelts, I said, and she didn't ask what I meant. The next twist came wrapped in a kindness. Our neighbor, Mrs. Hahn, texted to ask if she could swing by with leftover soup because she overestimated the hunger of teenagers. She's the kind of person who deals in precise mercy. She stood in our doorway holding a container of soup and a small, hard truth. I'm not nosy, she said, which is what nosy people say, but her eyes were kind. I saw a dentist appointment card on your fridge for March. Mine's the same practice. Thought I'd mention there were paparazzi out front today. Not real ones, just a coworker with a phone pointing at the wrong people. I thanked her and took the soup and felt the room tilt a degree toward the slope. People slide down when they want the plot to write itself. I put the soup in the fridge and the card in a drawer. We were leaving soon. We didn't have to curate the walls for viewers. That weekend, Gabe and I moved boxes from the apartment to the Lemon Tree place near Reed. The landlord, a retired librarian with a ring of keys like a chorus, stopped by to ask whether I preferred to fix the sticky back door now or live around it for 3 months and resent the hinge. I said, fix it now. She nodded, pleased in the way people get when they see you refuse to negotiate with entropy. On Sunday, I jogged before sunrise because the body likes a schedule even if the heart's working off a blackout. The city smelled like rain and yeast and the kind of diesel you forgive because trash gets picked up. When I came back, there was an envelope on my new porch with no return address and a printed label that knew my name too well. Inside, a pile of photocopies. Expense reports, a calendar screenshot, a grainy photo of 2 familiar figures in a lobby, the picture taken on a phone through a plant. A sticky note on top, if HR won't look at this, the internet will. I put the stack back in the envelope, slid it into the closet, and shut the door. Not my homework. The line had to hold even when someone whispered a shortcut. Monday at lunch, a counselor from my school came to my civics class to talk about support services. New hire. Mara, she spoke at a pace that made tight chests unclench. After class, we traded the kind of small talk that's actually the large kind. Sleep, food, the small humiliations of photocopiers. The machine jammed, we fixed it without swearing, and she said, the trick is not to yank. And I remembered a lobby desk clerk putting her palm on a counter like we were both doing our best not to yank. It took 3 more accidental hallway conversations before we admitted we were showing up on purpose. Coffee turned into a walk that turned into me telling her about the garden stone booth at the fair. She said, I like rituals that don't ask for an audience, and I thought, this might be someone I can hand silence to without asking it to perform. Then the message I didn't know I was waiting for arrived. It was from her, my ex, and it had the weight of something measured twice and cut once. I'm not asking for a do-over. I owe you a few facts. I thought I was pregnant. I'm not. Panic does stupid math, I told him. He told her. She asked for tests about a different thing, about someone else he might be the father of. That blew up without me. None of this fixes us. I'm leaving the firm. I'm sorry I made you a prop. Thank you for keeping the room small. The DNA twist unfolded through other people's mouths. Jess said the fiancé had spent a week in and out of offices with her jaw set to granite and came out with a manila envelope and a tight, tidy nod. Word on the Slack grapevine was that the senior designer's leave had become separation, a corporate word that means both a personnel action and a depiction of the universe. Whether the test said yes or no didn't matter to me as much as this. Whatever storm came next, it passed over without flooding my street. I had chosen a sandbagged life, and the water obeyed. A more private twist arrived in my bank app, a Venmo request for $12 from the bartender at the Lyric with a memo that said anniversary dessert. I declined it, then sent 12 to Joe, the front desk woman, with a note for the water and the 7-day clock. She didn't accept. She wrote back, "Keep your money, spend it on a hinge that doesn't stick." I spent it on screws and a shim. The back door stopped catching. Turning a knob without force felt like an apology from the universe. The fair rolled back around in August, as fairs do. A friend got me out of the house with promises of kettle corn and goats. The ring booth was exactly where it had been, as if the year hadn't happened. The kid behind the glass said genuine, like his father had taught him in a language made of winks. I didn't buy anything. On the way out, the concrete paver booth woman waved me over like an accomplice and asked if Spinner could spare a paw. I pressed his print into the wet cement beside my initials and the year. Before it set, I took the $5 ring from my pocket and pressed it into the corner, stone up like a wink. The woman cocked her head. "Memory?" she asked. "An instruction manual," I said. School resumed. Mara found a rhythm with my students that made the room behave. We were two adults learning how to set chairs back where we found them. We ate soup on my back step and watched the lemon tree commit to a second fruit like a miracle you don't brag about. Spinner decided her lap was his jurisdiction. She laughed like a person who hadn't been allowed to in a while. One rainy Saturday, I ran to the farmer's market and came back past the Lyric without meaning to. The lobby glowed like it had nothing to be sorry for. A wedding party tumbled out in velvet and relief. The desk was busy. Joe wasn't there. I thought about walking in and saying thank you again for not asking for a story. Instead, I kept moving. Not every loop needs tying in public. Then a smaller twist knocked, a text from Erin, the fiancé I'd spoken to once, with the folder in her hand. "Update for your piece, not your gossip, not pregnant, we're not getting married. You were right about not outsourcing bravery. I'm keeping the dog, delete my number, and have a good life." I wrote back, "You too, keep the door quiet." Then I deleted the thread before it tried to become anything else. The only time the ring threatened to turn into a spectacle was in November, when the landlord asked if I could move the paver 6 inches because the gardener kept tripping over it. We stood in the yard in drizzle negotiating inches. I picked up the stone, heavy in a way that made the ring inside feel like a heartbeat, and set it down 6 inches to the left. It looked exactly the same and also like a decision I'd made on purpose. The gardener gave me a thumbs up. Spinner approved with a sigh. The twists weren't done because life isn't a novel with a page count. In December, my principal asked if I'd join a community panel on restorative practices, the district's way of asking us not to punish kids into silence. I sat on a stage under bad lights and told a room that justice isn't a spectacle, it's a quiet sentence you can keep. People nodded the way people do when a line fits in a pocket. Afterward, a woman in the back row waited until the line went down and said, "I'm Joe. We know how to be boring in the same ways." We got coffee. She told me she'd left the Lyric for a job at a community art center because she was tired of watching people act out in marble. I told her I was learning the names of the plants in my yard and forgetting them like a student who needs repetition. We laughed. She said, "When you said you wanted a sentence you could live with, I wrote it down on a post-it and stuck it under the keyboard. Best tip I ever got for dealing with fathers of the bride who want to comp everything." By spring, the lemon tree gave me 2.5 lemons because hope is weird and halves count. Mara watched me squeeze one into a pitcher like alchemy and said, "I don't know how to say this without sounding like a bumper sticker, but I like the life you built when nobody was applauding." I said, "I like the way you say the quiet thing like it's allowed, and we let the sentence sit between us like a chair we both needed." I didn't see Maya again until the first sunny Saturday in May, the kind of day this city puts on the brochure. Spinner dragged me toward the river. At the corner by the coffee cart, she walked toward me carrying a plant in a paper bag, sunglasses on, hair shorter in a way that made her jaw look more like a decision. For a second, the street was a split screen, the fare booth with bad fluorescent light, the lobby with citrus, the sitting room with our soft voices. Then it was just a sidewalk. "Hey," she said, and her voice had lost that tiny flinch I used to make decisions around. "Do you have a minute?" I had 30. We stood in the sun near a fire hydrant that had decided to look heroic. She told me she was moving to Spokane for a job that didn't involve strategy sprint debriefs and that she was learning to be bored enough to hear herself think. She said she'd mailed me something months ago and then chickened out and shredded it. That had been the apology I didn't owe her. She said she was dating someone who asked better questions and knew how to lose at darts without rewriting physics. "Good," I said, and meant it. "And you?" she asked. "I pressed the ring into concrete," I said. She laughed in a way that sounded like a backpack being set down. "That sounds right," she said. "Did you throw it while shouting a speech?" "No," I said. I mumbled a sentence and went home to walk a dog. We shook hands like people who knew what that meant. We didn't hug, we didn't reminisce. She walked north. I walked south with Spinner and a lemonade in a paper cup and a feeling that didn't need music. A year after the lobby, I sat on my back step, coffee warming my hands, watching the ring wink up from stone beneath the lemon tree behaving like faith. The life I wanted didn't arrive on a projector or with applause. It arrived one hinge, one list, one small decision at a time, with people who didn't need me to make a scene to believe me. You can call that a soft ending. It is. Not every justice needs a crowd. Sometimes the bravest thing is to make your paperwork and keep your voice low. Sometimes the twist is that you don't twist the knife. If you were me in that sitting room off the lobby, would you have marched to the elevator or waited for the door to open and said your sentence in a room with chairs? Would you have weaponized the logs, emailed HR, blown it up, or pressed a $5 ring into concrete and gone to fix a hinge? Tell me your take in the comments, and if this story kept you listening, like the video and subscribe so the next quiet win finds the next person who needs one.